all of that to kind of pivot towards authentic calm and how that came about is kind of a year before I decided to go back to school. I was working at a agency downtown, doing digital marketing, and it was like the dream job, just loving being down. I love like urban atmosphere. And so I was like getting all of that, all the fun. It was really fast paced and exciting. But honestly, I was really struggling because I was so sensitive and it was just so intense.
Yep.
So like I had all the skills for it, but not the nervous system. That makes sense. So I ended up burning myself into the ground, like absolutely burning myself into the ground. And my husband and I had planned a trip to France that fall. And I don't even know how we did it. He's an entrepreneur, so we're both just like crazy people. But we flew to France. And while we were there, I had a major wake-up call of, I can't live this way. This isn't good for me. This isn't healthy, even though this is what I've been told my whole life that I should be doing. Go to college, work in an incredible, exciting career, marketing, branding, all this stuff that I had thought I wanted to go into. And then I realized I can't, and it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel healthy to me. And so, came back from France, stepped away from the job. And that next year I just dove into massive, self-reflection and processing. And it ended up being a full year. Was crazy. I meant it to be like a month, and then I was going to find a new job, and I ended up working for my husband. So I was working, but it was very mellow. And I basically took a whole year, which is such a gift. Like not many people get that. A year where I had a lot of space to process. And it was a year where I really went inward, and I did a lot of trauma work and a lot of processing and coming back to who I am, away from what others want from me, away from what culture tells me I need to be, even my education, the religion I was brought up in, just all these things that were putting these pressures and these expectations on me. And I grew up as a people pleaser. So I was constantly trying to meet these expectations. And I realized those needed to go. And so I was working through, that common term of delayering that onion. And I was just peeling back all these layers. And it's when I arrived, I think, at the layer of, oh, wow, my career, like I've been given this massive health journey, and I don't think it's a waste. I think it's a gift. And I think I've been in a way prepared for this next season of my life. And that's what led me into, oh my gosh, I have to go back to school. So that for me was that like authentic piece. But during that year, I actually called it something different. I called it a soul at rest. And that's really what came to me. And that was the phrase that I visualized in my mind as I was doing this work. And that's what kept coming back to me. And as I went to school and was learning about the nervous system, the parasympathetic versus the sympathetic, which we can dive into, it started connecting with what I was discovering about our emotional state and our mental state, and realizing that, oh my gosh, this is a big thing of we can block ourselves from healing if we're not constantly cultivating this certain state, Yep. And I had these two words come to me of authentic calm. And that when that came, it just hit me like a brick. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I've never heard anyone say this, but it so captures for me in my mind what it is that I'm encompassing in the work I want to do, and honestly, what in my own journey. So it's a pure reflection of what I've been processing myself emotionally and physically. And it's something that as I was trained in many, many, many different therapies and perspectives, it just kept coming through. It was solid through all of them. It was just this woven strain that, oh my gosh, yeah, that applies. And so when I launched my practice, it was clear to me that everything I do needs to come back to cultivating this state. And how I define authentic calm, just to be clear, is I say it's your unique state of restful ease in body and mind. So it's unique to you, meaning, yes, we're all human. Yes, our functions are similar, but no one's had the exact genetic makeup that you've had. No one's ever had the exact experience you've had. And that in and of itself creates a human being that's very different from everyone else. So there's that piece. And then the calm piece really speaks to within the body, and within the mind, we need to be in a place of ease. And by ease, I don't always mean peace or just, like checking out. I mean, functioning well, homeostasis, balance, harmony. That's what I mean. Functioning as we were created to function. Living and thinking as we were created to be. And instead of what we're told to be, instead of being impacted by all the trauma, physical or emotional, that's shifting and blocking and preventing our body from being in that state of homeostasis. So by cultivating authentic calm, that process is bringing the body and the mind back into balance. So does that make sense?
So important. Absolutely. At least to me, it totally makes sense. And again, for 2020, I set down that, one of the key words for me, focal points would be more authentic, right? There's a huge part of working in the medical field, not being a doctor myself, working on the business side, kind of having that a little bit like, should you be in this? You're not a doctor. People sometimes mistake, and I be like, hey, Dr. Schultz is my father, right? and they're like, oh, so you're not in, medicine? Like, no, I'm in medicine, but I'm on the business side and everything. And it chips away a little bit at you when you get that. And you start to be like, all right, let me sit in the background. But that's not my authentic self. My authentic journey was not to become a doctor like my father, but to help him walk side by side and influence a number of doctors and influence a broader field. So through accepting that authenticity of who I am, I feel much more at peace rather than trying to be something people were like, wait, you're not a doctor, go back over there. And I would listen. Right. And I think we do that a lot. We have that imposter syndrome sometimes because the old ways of doing it is you need an MD after your name to be in medicine to talk about it. How could you even have an opinion about this if you never went to med school? In many ways, I feel I'm in a better state because I didn't have that programming and that kind of, that whole big pharma influence on me. And I see things in a very different way as an entrepreneur and creative mind. Like you said, I love applying that. So I love that authentic side, and it totally makes sense to me.